Hello, welcome to our math practice, and today we are doing quadratic equations, part 2. I believe you have looked at part 1. So in part 2, we have what we can call hard questions, and here they are. Feel free to try the numbers before you look at the solutions so that you can mark your answers. So let us try and go through the questions. Question number 1, it says, given that we have that fraction 1 out of 3x minus 4 plus x out of x plus 1 is equal to 1. So for x. And now when you look at these two fractional parts, in order for us to solve, we need to put them under the same denominator. Okay, and the easiest thing to do when we have unknowns is when we multiply the terms in the denominator. So the first term is 3x minus 4. I want to put this in brackets into x plus 1. Okay, I multiply the two. So when I divide this by this, see what happens. I can do this as side work. 3x minus 4 times x plus 1 divide by 3x minus 4, the first part. Okay, so this will disappear, and meaning we stay with this. So the good thing is the number here is a 1. So we'll do 1 times x plus 1. Okay, but I know even if I put here 1, it does not change anything. Okay, and then I have a plus sign. I put a plus. Now we have a term x. So now when we divide this by this, the x plus 1 term will disappear. So we stay with 3x minus 4. Okay, this should equal to 1. That's our first step. And in our next step, we need to open brackets in the numerator. When I open brackets here, the first part I said will not change, x plus 1. Then when I do this, I have plus 3x squared minus 4x. That's the numerator. Then in the denominator, when I multiply 3x times x, I get 3x squared, 3x times positive 1 plus 3x minus 4 times x minus 4x, and then minus 4 times 1 minus 4. This should equal to 1. We can simplify. I see we have like terms, but since we have the highest power here of x being a 2, we can start with that term 3x squared. And then this x is positive, take away 4. You stay with minus 3x. That's like saying if this is a book and you take away 4, you have minus 3x there, then plus 1, and everything is out of. Also here we have like terms. The first term is 3x squared. Ready? This is 3x, take away 4, minus x, and then minus 4. This is equal to 1. I need some more space. Okay, now from this, now that I say I do not have anything else to simplify, I can cross multiply. And since on this side I have 1, 1, when I multiply this by this, I still have the same thing, 3x squared minus 3x plus 1 is equal to, on this side, 3x. Okay, let me write that one down because of space. 3x squared minus x minus 4. Does not look nice. Okay, I'll just put everything down here where it can all fit, so that it makes sense. So when I have this, so when I cross multiply, I have 3x squared minus 3x plus 1 is equal to, when I multiply this by this, 3x squared minus x minus 4. Okay, now since I have 3x squared on both sides, I know when I take this to this side, it becomes negative, so it will cancel with that. Now I can put like terms together. I can take this to this side. Here I've stayed with minus 3x. When this x crosses equal signs, it becomes plus x is equal to. Here I've stayed with minus 4. When I take positive 1 to the other side, it becomes minus 1. So we have minus 2x is equal to minus 5. Divide on both sides by minus 2. Our x is equal to 5 out of 2, and that is our final answer. Feel free to write it as 2 whole numbers and a half. Okay, let's look at our question 2. Question 2 is here. It says solve the simultaneous equations. We have that first equation there, and then the second one. When I look at the second one already, I have y being made to be the subject. Take like this is our first equation, and this is the second. So already I have y here. I can use substitution method. I'll substitute y in the first equation, and so I write x squared plus 4. Now instead of saying 4y squared, I want to substitute the y with x minus 1 is equal to 4. Oh, sorry, we have a square here. If I move on, is equal to 4. Okay, now from there, the serious work we have is here, expanding this. This square here means multiply x minus 1 again times x minus 1. So we need to multiply these two brackets, and how do we do that? This times that, we have x squared. Again, this times that, we have minus x. This times this, minus x. And then minus 1 times minus 1, positive 1. We are trying to simplify the square there. These are like terms. So we can have this, these two giving us minus 2x plus 1. Okay, now we can go back to this first equation. We have x squared plus 4. Now I want to substitute the squared bracket with this. Okay, this should equal to 4. And from there we can go ahead and open brackets. X squared plus 4x squared minus 8x plus 4 is equal to 4. I need more space. Okay, now I need to put like terms together. This and this will simplify into 5x squared minus 8x. Then when I look at this 4, when I bring it to this side, it will become minus. It becomes minus 4. Okay, so it can disappear, and we simply say that this is equal to 0 there. We have taken everything, and this can be simplified easily. It can be solved easily by factorization. If I put x outside the brackets, in the brackets I can write 5x minus 8 is equal to 0. Okay, more space. It's a tough question. Okay, so when I have this statement here, this simply means either I have my x is equal to 0, since I'm multiplying two terms and they're giving me a 0, or 5x minus 8 should be a 0. Take the minus 8 to the other side. 5x is equal to 8, so x should be 5 out of 8. So we have two values for x there. But remember, we are solving a simultaneous equation. So from the second equation, y is equal to x minus 1. If I use this value of x, that means my y value will be 0 minus 1, which is negative 1. That's the value for y. And now also, if I use this other value for x, my y should equal to 5 out of 8 minus 1. This minus 1, I can think of it like I'm doing 5 out of 5. Okay, so sorry, it is 5 out of 8 minus 1. So forgive me, there's a mistake here. This answer here, it has to be 8 out of 5. We divided on both sides by 5 here. Okay, so 8 out of 5. So even here, let me put it right. This should be 8 out of 5. That's why I was saying if this is minus 1, it's like saying 5 out of 5. So 8 minus 5, I have 3 out of 5, since the denominator becomes the same. And so that's the value for y. I believe you have enjoyed that question there. Okay, let's continue with our question 3, which says express this. We have here some algebraic terms in the form a out of this. And so when you look at this question, these are some of the numbers that you can easily answer with practice. So that's why I keep on saying practice and perfect and then perform. So here we would start with this quadratic part. And why with this part? So that we can factorize it into its factors. Good enough that the sum here is 1. We have a 1 here. This is minus 12. So we need to use sum and product. So I have x squared, two numbers that when I multiply I get positive 1 and minus 12. The two numbers should be plus 4x minus 3x. Okay, 4 and minus 3, then minus 12. So I'm only focusing on this. Factorize this 2x into x plus 4, and since it's a quadratic expression, I'm sure that even in the second bracket I should have x plus 4, and I need to have a minus 3, so that when I multiply by this I get back to this. When I multiply this by this, I go back to this. So finally, since what is in the brackets is the same, I can factor it out. I open a new bracket, I put x minus 3. So these two are the factors. Okay, and now from the factors, we can clearly see that we have the same term appearing in the numerator. Meaning that we can simplify. Okay, so now write the entire expression. 2 out of x plus 4 plus 4 out of x minus 3. Also to notice these two terms are the factors for this expression. Then minus 4 into x plus 4 out of x plus 4 into x minus 3. But now at this step, I can see that this and this can cancel, because they are the same. And so we can comfortably write another step here. 2 out of x plus 4 plus 4 out of x minus 3, then minus 4 out of x minus 3. Interesting. Now look at this. This middle term is exactly the same as this, and this is positive, this is negative. So that means also we can put away these 2. And so our final answer is 2 out of x plus 4 in the required form, a out of x plus b. That was the required form up here. Good. Let's look at question 4 here. This is our question 4, which says express that in the form, okay, and hence solve the equation. Now when you look at that, this part here is what we call a perfect square. It's like when you look at number 25, it's called a square number because 5 times 5 is 25. So we also need to do the same thing, and so we are going to use completing squares. We are going to use completing square on this expression here, and there are some rules we need to apply. So first of all, focus on the coefficient of x squared. That should be the first thing to look at. Make sure that the coefficient of x squared is 1. And the nice thing in this question, it's already 1, so we don't need to worry about that. So I'll write x squared plus x. Then we are required to add, what are we adding? The coefficient of the x term. Now here the coefficient of x is 1, divided by 2, and we square. Okay, that is a rule that we need to follow. Divide the coefficient of x by 2 and square. And now that we have a new term, in order for us to have our expression as it is, we need to take away the very term that we have added. Okay, and this is how interesting math is, so that this term can still disappear, and then finally we have our minus 12. Okay, and now this part here can be written as a perfect square by writing the unknown, then this number here, this is positive a half, so I write positive a half squared. When you expand this bracket here, you will be able to go back to this. Okay, then I need now to work on this side. I have minus 1 out of 4 minus 12. Now we need to work on this. This is out of 1, so we have x plus a half squared. Then since this is 1, I need to have minus 1 minus 48 out of 4. Notice that when I do this, I get this. When I do this, I get back my minus 12 here. We need to be a little bit careful with this step here. You see I'm maintaining minus minus. Since we have two minus signs, if I'm to put brackets and I put the minus outside, then inside I'll write a quarter plus 12. Okay, so when you open brackets here, after adding these two, you'll be able to get my nice step here, that I want to write, and this step is okay. The nice step I want to write here is I would maintain that x plus a half squared. Now here I have minus 49 out of 4, and so by doing this, we have achieved this required form here. This form here, x squared plus b. If we are to put in the plus, you see that our b is now the negative 49. If we are to introduce a plus here, remember plus and a minus, they will give you a minus, but that's our final answer. Now to do the other part where we are told hence solve. To solve now, we need to continue. We shall not go back to using any other method. We shall just say x plus a half squared minus 49 out of 4 should equal to a 0. Now it turns into an equation. Take this minus 49 out of 4 to this side. X plus a half squared should equal to 49 out of 4. And since this unknown is on the square, now we can take the square root on both sides, and we can comfortably write x plus a half should equal to, now when you take the square root of this number, it can be plus or minus 7 out of 2, and that now helps us to get our two answers. From this we can write and say that means either x plus a half is equal to positive 7 out of 2, or x plus a half is equal to negative 7 out of 2. If we continue with this, take this to this side, x should equal to 7 out of 2 minus a half. This will give me, since the denominator is the same, 7 minus 1, 6 out of 2, and the final answer here is a 3. And then when I look at the alternative part, take minus a half to the other side, x should equal to minus 7 out of 2 minus a half, and since the denominator is the same, I just do minus 7 minus 1 minus 8 out of 2, which gives me minus 4. So those are the other two answers. Okay, and our final question of the day, still it is similar to question 4, where we have this and we need to write it in this form here. So see, we are going to complete squares for this quadratic expression here, and we said first thing is make sure that the coefficient of x squared is 1, which is the case here, so that's not a problem. X squared minus x, then add the coefficient of x. Now in this case the coefficient of x is negative 1 divided by 2, and square that. Okay, but after doing that, you need now to subtract the very term you have added, so that this will go back to the given expression. And then finally, we also have minus 3 out of 4. Okay, the moment we have this, we can now write down our perfect square as x. Now the number here, the term here is negative a half. That's how I get this sign here, squared. Okay, when you expand this, you will be able to go back to this. Then minus, now here negative 1 squared, I get a 1 out of a 4. Then I have minus 3 out of 4. I'll maintain this. Already this is the first part, so my p is equal to negative a half, because you see here we have a plus. So if I put a plus here, the p is negative a half. Then minus a quarter minus 3/4, this gives me minus 1. Think of that. Remember we said if you put out the negative, we have inside a quarter plus 3/4, and a quarter plus 3/4 gives you a 1, and then we have a negative here, so it goes back to negative 1. And this is our first part, with q being a negative 1, because we can also put here plus, but plus and minus will still be minus. So our q is a negative 1. Good. Now hence solve. Now the solving part, as I said in question 4, we shall simply go ahead and equate this to 0. So I have this is equal to 0. Take the minus 1 to the other side. X minus a half squared should equal to now 0 plus 1, which is 1. From there, we can take the square root on both sides, and so we have x minus a half is equal to square root of 1 is plus or minus 1. And so having gotten that, we can now go ahead and get the two answers, where you can say either x minus a half is equal to positive 1, or x minus a half is equal to negative 1. Take this negative a half to the other side. X should equal to 1 plus a half, which can give us the answer there is 1 whole number, 1 whole number and a half, or simply give it as 3 out of 2. And then on this side, take negative a half to this side. X should equal to negative 1 plus a half, and negative 1 plus a half is equal to negative a half. So those are the answers for that question. Thank you very much for your time. Please do not forget to subscribe. More is still to come.